What a crazy day in Major League Baseball. 9 one-run games, 5 walk-offs, and the Boston Red Sox just taking it to the St. Louis Cardinals. This is MLB Game Night.
When that final out is made, you know it's time for Locked On MLB Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On MLB Game Night. Your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On MLB Game Night, your source of daily MLB recaps covering everything that happens in Major League Baseball 7 times a week. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, the host of the Braves postcast found on Locked On Braves and Locked On Sports Atlanta. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. He's Jake Riepma, host of the Detroit Tigers postcast. You can follow him on Twitter, Jake_RIEPMA. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Jake, bonkers day of baseball. Just tons of stuff happening, but I think the biggest game of the day ended up being our friends in Philadelphia taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Here is host Connor Thomas talking about how that game went for Philly.
The series win from the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm Connor Thomas, your host of Locked On Phillies. And man, what a baseball game we had today at Citizens Bank Park. Back and forth all day, rain, shine, everything. Tyler Glasnow goes out early for the Dodgers. The Phillies make some headway in the third inning, and then the Dodgers come roaring back. And Jordan Romano, man, we're going to talk about it on tomorrow's episode. He is an early season problem for the Phillies, but the rest of the bullpen has been lights out. Christopher Sanchez battled, even though Teoscar Hernandez had his number. And the Fightin' Phils have proved, yes, the Los Angeles Dodgers, that billion, trillion-dollar roster, they're not unbeatable. It's an early season statement from the Philadelphia Phillies, and I cannot wait to break down all of it for you on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Phillies. Make sure you tune in. Go Fightins.
So this is an 8-7 win by Philly to take the series 2-1. A lot of stuff to cover in this one. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me was Tyler Glasnow making it 2 innings, 2 hits, but 5 earned runs because he walked 5 batters. And it's just, for all of the depth that the Los Angeles Dodgers have in their rotation. I mean, we can go 7, 8, 9 deep, especially once you count in Shohei Ohtani and Clayton Kershaw. It's going to be really hard for them to win as many games as we expect if their starters going 2 innings and allowing 7 base runners.
Well, Lindsay, you're not wrong. And my goodness, what a time to be on MLB Game Night. Fired up as always to be with you. Let's do this thing, huh? Let's break it all down. And you talk about the Dodgers and you use the term friends. I will not say the friends when talking about the Philadelphia Phillies. You're a nicer guy than I am. And look, all the respect in the world to the Philadelphia Phillies. They're off to a great start. But when you talk about starting pitching, you're walking that many guys. You got no chance. It doesn't matter what uniform you're wearing. Yeah. So for Glasnow to struggle as much as he did today, I was certainly surprised by that. I don't think it's something he's going to, certainly make a habit of doing by any means. But my goodness, and the Dodgers, for as much as, and I'm guilty of this too, but you still got to get 27 outs. You still got to be able to command the strike zone and do everything it takes to win a baseball game. And the Dodgers showed this weekend that maybe there could be some chinks in the armor. No, don't take that and clip it on me and say, Jake Riepma said there's some chinks in the armor. It's not what
Jake's a hater.
That's right. I will not use the term friend to describe the Philadelphia Phillies and the Dodgers. You know what? They're not going 162-0, my friend.
It is absolutely not happening. No, the big thing, just stick it on the rotation for a minute before we get to the Phillies. And shout out to Brian in the comments with some questions about the Phillies. We'll get to there. 60 pitches, 28 strikes. Like, I can't remember a worse 2-inning stint for a starter on total pitches to strikes.
Like the little league stuff, man. It's like when you're like cheering on your nephew, like you're only there because you have to be. Like, come on, buddy, fire it in the strike zone. It's just, I was certainly surprised to see Glasnow only last 2 innings like that. And it just, you put your team behind the 8 ball when you do that. But I mean, to the Dodgers' credit, still, I mean, they are as good as advertised, and still made it a great game.
I mean, as you head to the bottom of the 7th, they had a 7-6 lead. Like, they had a chance to win this game, and that is just, again, the Dodgers are so deep, even without Freddie Freeman right now, right? Teoscar Hernandez playing, I'm sorry, not Teoscar, sorry, Kike Hernandez playing first base. They've got, Teoscar Hernandez hits 2 homers. He gets a first inning off of Christopher Sanchez. He tags him again in the 4th. That's after he doubled in the 3rd. I mean, just a huge game for Teoscar Hernandez. There's a position to win the game, which is
5 RBIs for Hernandez. Just an impressive day at the plate, no doubt.
Yeah. Is it, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm not sure here, but seeing the fact that they use Alex Vezia for an inning, one of their top relievers, one of the best relievers in baseball last year. He gives up a run. Kirby Yates gives him 2/3 of a scoreless inning, but Blake Trinan takes the blown save and the loss there in that 2-run 8th. Is there any reason to be concerned about the Dodgers pitching staff as a whole when you look at the shorter outings you've been getting? Sasaki went like 4 innings yesterday, Glasnow today, and then the bullpen being shorthanded. They don't have Bruce Gratterall and some of those guys. Like, is it legitimate to be a little bit worried about the pitching for the Dodgers? Or is this just a couple early season bumps in the road and they're going to be fine?
Right. I think a lot of that depends on your perspective. If you're a fanatic like I am and the sky is falling after 9 innings of baseball played day in and day out, then yes, there's reason to be concerned. But in all seriousness, I mean, I try is the key word there, to stay even keeled with a lot of, especially in the first month, 2 months of the season. Not enough of a sample size. Anybody will tell you that. But that being said, you look at this Dodgers roster on paper, and if you were to maybe try to point to an area of weakness, I think, and weakness is a strong term. So we're not going to play the semantics game and the definitions of the words by any means. Weakness it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but perhaps the less the part of the roster that's not a complete juggernaut like the rest of the roster might be that bullpen.
Yeah. Getting to the Phillies side of this real quick. Christopher Sanchez, 5 2/3, 6 hits, 4 runs, only 1 walk to 9 strikeouts, but he does give up 2 homers to Teoscar Hernandez. And then they get their bullpen also seems to struggle a little bit. Jordan Romano, who they signed in the offseason, 2 hits, 3 runs, 1 walk, doesn't record an out. Orion Kerkerine gives up a hit, allows an inherited runner to score. He takes the blown save, but they end up winning the game. Phillies never had a great bullpen, right? They have all of these stars. They have a Bryce Harper, a Trey Turner, JT Realmuto, all these guys. They've never had a great bullpen. Can they slug enough to is it just ball go boom and it can take them to another World Series?
Yeah.
Or are they in a situation where they're going to be scrambling to find guys in the bullpen at midseason, given how some of these folks have already struggled so early in the year?
Right. It goes back to that conversation about, sample size and where you are at this point of the season. But certainly enough. There's been enough instances where you can start to have that conversation of, wait a second, should we be proactive about this? What does the roster construction look like, and what are our options for the Philadelphia Phillies? But I would also add to that, hey, something crazy happened today in the world of sports. So, Nick Castellanos was going to have himself a day. You got Ovechkin breaking the Wayne Gretzky goal record, and sure enough,
Nick Castellanos homers.
I mean, if you're into the betting world, anything happens, just get to your local sports book, online, whatever it is, and just hammer Nick Castellanos. Something's crazy is going to happen.
It's absolutely there in the thing. And, to your point on the bullpen about them having to kind of go out and do something, this is a pretty old roster. Like most of these big name starters, your Turner, your Harper, your Schwarber, all these guys, your Realmuto, they're all in their 30s.
Right. You wonder how much gas is left in the tank.
Yeah, like you can't let an opportunity slip. You need to be willing to move some prospects to reinforce this team at midseason if you need it. So we'll see what happens there. In just a second, I want to talk about the Yankees and the Pirates. They had a wild back and forth one. We'll do that next, right here on MLB Game Night. But first, today's episode's brought to you by our friends at Just Ingredients. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. You guys might not know this, but Jake is an elite athlete, and so he understands the value of having an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with somebody from that last game, Bryce Harper, a two-time MVP, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. So listen to baseball star Bryce Harper, listening to curling expert Jake Riepma. Visit justingredients.us, use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow just.ingredients on Instagram. Welcome back to MLB Game Night. Lindsay, Crosby, Jake Riepma talking here about all of the crazy action across baseball. And Jake, the Yankees had themselves a game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. They have had their way in the first two games of this series, but the third game takes them a little bit longer. They end up going 11 innings. Let's hear from our friends over at Locked On Yankees about exactly what happened in that one.
Tough loss for the Yankees as they drop one to the Pittsburgh Pirates 5-4 in the 11th inning. Devin Williams was unable to get the hold to move it over to the 12th. The struggling start for Will Warren looked good at points in the game, but was unable to have a consistent start all the way through. Yankees will head to Detroit later on tonight, and they'll take on the Tigers in a tough matchup, a really tough pitching matchup for them. It's not going to be easy in the really cold weather out in Detroit. We'll be breaking that down all week on Locked On Yankees. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts or on YouTube for the rest of the week.
And to his point, Devin Williams is the guy in the final inning. One hit, one run. It's a walk-off. Pirates end up taking this one 5-4. Is there any concern about the Yankees pitching, right? They've already lost Garrett Cole. We know this offense is good, right? Jazz Chisholm, Aaron Judge, obviously, Austin Wells, Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt. Is there any concern about this pitching staff? They had to throw three different relievers, 2 innings apiece, and then the big name trade acquisition to anchor their bullpen and Devin Williams couldn't get the job done.
Yeah, I got to apologize. I think I lost a little internet for a second there, but we're live, we're loaded, we're back with you. And I heard you saying, is there any concern? And I don't necessarily think there is. And I mean, that might be the theme of today's show with as many of wacky, wild walk-offs as we had. It's just, it's still early portion of the season. And to make the same point about the Dodgers roster, you look at this Yankees roster on paper, and sure, you'd sweep the Pirates for any chance you get. So the fact of the matter that they're able to come back and win that game in extra innings after the Yankees put the 3 spot there in the 9th inning, it's certainly you walk away with a bitter taste in your mouth after this game. But I think it's the old adage, like, you live to play another day. And for the Yankees going to Detroit, I'll be interested, obviously, watching that from the Tigers' perspective. Given the quick turnaround the Tigers have, it helps when you're playing the Chicago White Sox to get a little momentum and sweep them. And if they're still considered a Major League Baseball team at this point, but that'll be, I don't think it's time to hit the alarm by any means if you're a fan of the New York Yankees, but certainly disappointing today.
Yeah, and with an offense this good, you have some margin for error. The Yankees scored 3 runs in the 9th. Trent Grisham's big hit that tied the game up was with 2 strikes and 2 outs. So as long as your pitching can be okay, and prospect Will Warren, good effort, 4 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. I have him in fantasy, would have loved for him to have done a little better. But obviously, this team can build pitching. It still feels like they're going to be doing some sort of midseason acquisition for a guy, but I'm not too terribly concerned about that. Moving on a little bit here, Cardinals Red Sox, 18-4 is that night game. But we're before that, looking at the early game, 5-4 in 10 innings. Little bit of a walk-off there. And we've got our buddy JD from Locked On Cardinals to kind of break down the whole thing for us.
That one stings. Cardinals suffer a couple of losses in game one of their doubleheader in Boston. Hey, it's JD from Locked On Cardinals. And Ryan Helsley had an epic meltdown in the ninth inning. Cardinals were up 4-2 at the time, gives up 2 runs on 1 hit. He walks 4. The last walk bringing in the tying run. Sox would walk it off in the 10th inning against Ryan Fernandez. Cardinals also lost catcher Ivan Herrera with what was described by the team as knee inflammation. It certainly looked worse than that. He needed assistance to get off the field. Was replaced by Pedro Pajes, who had an incredible day at the plate in relief, going 2 for 4 with 2 doubles and 3 RBIs, giving the Cardinals the lead not once but twice. But now that Herrera's down, Contreras would be your emergency backup catcher. If the Cardinals need to bring up a catcher from Memphis, they will have to make a move on the 40-man roster. For the latest updates and info, be sure to keep it Locked On Cardinals.
Thanks, JD. Appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, this is something you lose your starting catcher after you moved your previous starting catcher to first base. A little bit iffy there. I think ultimately this was self-inflicted wounds for the Cardinals, right? They go 3 for 15 with runners on scoring position. They leave 14 on base. And it's at that point, you kind of, 11 hits and 4 runs, you kind of deserve to lose at that at that point in time.
No, you're absolutely right, Lindsay. And it's funny, and I guess funny might be a little bit too harsh, but Cardinal fans, I feel for them because I feel like this is a conversation, maybe not the runners in scoring position, those specific metrics or whatever it might be. But I just feel like if you're a Cardinals fan, you feel like the rest of the MLB is out to get you. You can't buy a break, and the knee inflammation is one thing after another. But I think they'll be all right. Today's a tough day. And then, to make matters worse, you got to strap it up and play the second half of the Twin Bill. And we obviously know how that one's going. So, I look at this Cardinals, I think they're going to be fine. But anytime you give away a game like that, you gift wrap it, and then you just get blown out in the second half of a doubleheader. I mean, it's I feel for Cardinals fans.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. Shout out to Ivan Herrera. He checked in for the 3rd inning of that first game. He's going to end up catching 12 innings today across 2 games. Like that's tough for any catcher. Shout out to that dude. To JD's point.
Yeah. Get him an ice bath.
There you go. To JD's point, they're probably going to have to make a move, right? You have William Contreras, who can obviously fall behind the plate and catch. Depends on how long Pajes is out. We'll see what happens with all of that. All right. The San Diego Padres. This is a really interesting matchup to me, kind of what they did here. The Cubs have been red hot, right? The Cubs have won 5 straight games. Padres take them down 8-7. Here's our buddy Javier Reyes from Locked On Padres to kind of break down what happened in this one.
What's up, everybody? Javier Reyes here, Locked On Padres podcast. We are thriving and vibing because Padres salvaged a series after not doing so well in games 1 and 2, getting shut out by Imanaga in game 1, and then game 2 just bad pitching and then really bad offense and then unlucky offense in a lot of ways. Game 3, their offense showed up despite the fact that Kyle Hart kind of left them out to dry. It wasn't great. He doesn't even last an inning in this one. Don't know what to think of him. He's still figuring things out. Clearly, that is a big question for the Padres back end of the rotation. But their offense, not as much, at least in terms of certain players. Gavin Sheets, game-tying hit. He's been super clutch for the team so far. 4-hit day for Luis Arias. We knew he was going to get going at some point. Jackson Merrill, that guy's pretty good. Home run for him in this game as well. But also, bigger picture, this Padres bullpen is ice, man. It's so good. Logan Gillespie was kind of the sacrificial lamb for today because of the Kyle Hart start. He gives up some big hits and whatnot, but gives them innings, and then the rest of the bullpen from Estrada to Suarez. Absolutely raking. Love to see it. Next up is Oakland.
I kind of feel bad for Oakland because Javi's fired up for that. Yeah,
I feel bad for Oakland for a lot of reasons. One being that they don't actually play in Oakland anymore.
I was about to say it's technically not Oakland; it's Sacramento, right? For the Athletics, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, they're the butt of every joke. They're the memes, the gifs, whatever everybody's doing on the internet. They're making fun of the Athletics, so we can all feel bad for them.
But I mean, Padres here: 13 hits, 8 runs. They draw 7 walks. To Javi's point, a bunch of guys pick up multiple hits. Luis Arias 4 for 5. Mm-hmm. His average is up to 256. Feels like you give him a month and he's going to be back at 320 again, right? But Jackson Merrill 2 for 5, 2 runs, 2 RBI. He's batting .378 with a 1.091 OPS. Just absolutely absurd right now. If they can figure out the back end of that rotation, the Padres, are they like a lock for the first wild card spot if they can figure out the back of that rotation?
Well, think of it this way. I mean, yes, to answer your question, you give up 5 runs in the first inning and you go on and win a game. I mean, if that doesn't show a little resolve and resiliency, I don't know what does. And I guess, it's my first episode, and those that don't know me, Locked On Tigers, do radio on 105.3 The Fan. Like, you can call me whatever you want, but I may get crazy and say, well, who's to say they can't challenge for the division? And it's very early, but let's not crown the Dodgers just yet. We got a lot of baseball left to play, and I think whether it be the wild card, whether it be the division, the Padres are certainly going to be one of those teams that nobody wants to see at any point in the season. But and I know I'd get a little ahead of myself here if we start talking postseason baseball. But yeah, you're picking up what I'm putting down, right, Lindsay?
Yeah, the Dodgers did lose today. We'll put it that way. Speaking of a lot of baseball left to play, a lot of baseball left to cover. We'll be back in just a second with more. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the smell of ballpark food, the beer, all of that. If you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as Game Time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. I love the whole idea of just spontaneous game night, right? Like, I just decided one day, hey, I'm going to go to a game, grab last minute tickets. Game Time had the absolute best prices, right? More money for food and merch. I knew exactly where I was going to sit. I saw what it looked like. I had the all-in price after fees and everything. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, so ton of baseball today. Let's get to some of these last couple games real quick. Another walk-off, one that a lot of people were there to see. Rangers take down the Rays 5-4. Here's my buddy Bryce from Locked On Rangers, all about what happened in this game.
And for the Rangers, finishing off the sweep with the first walk-off of the year. I'm Bryce Paddock, host of the Locked On Rangers podcast. This was a hard-fought win for the Rangers, now winning 5 straight in a row, a 1-run game where the Rangers won without the best parts of their bullpen. 5 solid innings from Kumar Rocker, finally using the correct pitch mix. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. Corey Seager with his first home run of the season. The Rangers are 8-2, and they've been able to do it with just 1 home run from Corey Seager in the first week plus of the season. This offense has barely gotten going, and this Rangers team is just unstoppable. The pitching, too good. The base running, now too good. This team going ham on the base pass. We'll talk about all that and more on Monday's episode of Locked On Rangers.
Definitely going to be a must-watch episode there of Locked On Rangers. What I'm trying to figure out here is, are the Texas Rangers the favorite in that division? Like, nobody's really stepped up. Who do you like to win the AL West?
Right. I think, Lindsay, unequivocally, you can say this Texas Rangers team on paper, on however you want to stack this up, they're 8-2, which again, 10-game sample size. I know that's a broken record at this point, but they have not played their best baseball in any sense of the word. And you look at this rotation, if Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker solidify the bottom part of that 5-man rotation, it might be one of the best rotations in baseball. Nathan Eovaldi turned in the Maddox the other day with less than 100 pitches, a complete game shutout for this Rangers team. And they complete a series against the Reds where they get outscored by 9 runs and take 2 of 3. I mean, it's kind of bizarre the way it's all playing out, but I would say they, especially offensively, nobody's gotten going. I know Seager had the home run today, which was good to see. Which, by the way, I don't know if I said this. I was at that game, and it was electric.
That's what I was alluding to. I was going to let you decide if you want to talk about it or not. Yeah,
and maybe that's if you've made it this long. Bear with us. I do Locked On Tigers postcast, Texas Rangers by day. You know, it's the classic Detroit Dallas crossover. But I got my Texas Rangers polo on because I was at the game today. Jonah Heim and his walk-off hit today. He even stole a base. And the way that a lot of good teams start to compile a winning roster is to be able to win in so many different, have to be so capable of winning in different ways. And I think you're seeing that with the Texas Rangers, whether it be the starting pitching, the offense is going to get going, be active on the base pass. They're doing a lot of things right. And Kumar Rocker, I mean, yes, it was only 5 innings, but compared to what we saw from him, his last start, this was very, very impressive. And it gives his team a chance to win like he did today. This Rangers team is going to be scary. And to your point, nobody else in the AL West is stepping up.
Yeah, talking about the AL West, we saw the Mariners get walked off by the Giants 5-4. Bigger issue here may have been the loss of Victor Robles. Catch against the wall in the 9th inning, came off, hold his wrist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was
one of the better catches you will see. My goodness,
fantastic catch, but he was in so much pain that he couldn't even walk off the field. Like they had to come out with a cart. It's a little concerning there. And then you mentioned the prospects in the rotation for the Rangers. Made me think about what we saw out of the Rockies today. Here's Locked On Rockies host Paul Holden all about their win 12-5 over the Athletics.
A big day for the Colorado Rockies as they snap a losing streak and the debut of their top prospect, Chase Dollander. The Rockies' big arm comes in and has a pretty solid debut. Couple of home runs given up, but gets the strikeouts, gets the win, and the Rockies offense finally comes alive and snaps the losing streak. There's still a lot of problems with the Colorado Rockies, and this start has still been far from really anywhere close to good. But days like Sunday, those are the ones to celebrate. Chase Dollander comes into the league and has some success. The offense wakes up, backs him up, and the Rockies are back in the win column. We'll see how they fare with the Brewers coming into town next.
Definitely interesting development there. The 2 home runs, Tyler Soderstrom, Lawrence Butler. Yeah, no, you get that. You totally understand giving up home runs to those 2 guys. But the Rockies, any chance they're not in 5th place in this division?
Oh boy, I would be lying if I said yes. So I'm not a liar. Sometimes just got to give it to you straight. Sorry, Rocky fans. You got snow during the games. You got purple uniform. I don't know what else I can tell you. I've heard Rocky games are a lot of fun. Have not been to one.
Same, yeah.
I mean, was it Coors Field? Looks amazing, but other than that, I got nothing for you, Lindsay.
The whole here's the thing. You mentioned snow on the ground, right? The whole reason we celebrate Jackie Robinson Day on April 15th is that is when the season used to start. That's when he debuted. And instead, we started 3 weeks early, and we have all these teams up north playing home games in open stadiums. Right. Meanwhile, teams like Atlanta are on the road, and they're going to L.A. and San Diego. Nobody north of the Mason-Dixon line should start at home on opening day. Nobody.
No, you're absolutely right. I don't care how many torpedo bats they have. It's still going to hurt to take one off the handle in cold weather like that.
Exactly. All right, so he did mention the Brewers coming to town. The Brewers did wrap up their series against the Reds today. Let's hear from our folks over at Locked On Brewers about what happened in that one.
Hi, everybody. Chuck Freeman, instant reaction following the Brewers taking 3 of 4 from the Cincinnati Reds. Nobody overcomes adversity in the regular season quite like the Milwaukee Brewers. They've had 4 of their 5 preferred pitchers go down. Nestor Cortez, we learned about that before the game. Brewers just go out and make something happen. Chad Patrick, who's not even supposed to be on the team, that's his second decent start. Rookie made his major league debut earlier in the week. Today, pitches into the 6th inning. Jackson Chourio hits a home run, and the Brewers get another win. Again, they're catching the Cubs, who seem to be red hot right now, but the Brewers, despite all these injuries, they're bouncing back from that 0-4 start. Back to the 500 mark with a win, 8-2 over the Reds. Talk to you a little bit later on tonight. Please subscribe to Locked On Brewers.
Feels like if you want to try to get right, the Rockies are a good opponent to face. I do want to move on real quick. I want to talk about these two teams. We had a question in the chat about this. Orioles-Royals, 4-1 Kansas City over Baltimore. The Royals put up only 1 run on 5 hits. They walk 1 time with 12 strikeouts. So 6 base runners for the game. One of those hits, Ryan Mountcastle has 3 of those hits, by the way, including a triple. It's a first baseman with a triple. Shout out to that. But between Cade Povich going 6 innings with 13 hits allowed, somehow he only gave up 4 runs, and the offense struggled a little bit. Are the Orioles in trouble in the AL East?
Listen, I don't think it's too early to sound the alarm. I really don't. And there has to be some sort of come to Jesus speech between amongst the players in that clubhouse to figure it out, because I'm going to use one of the best baseball cliches that we all know. You can't win the division in April, but you can certainly lose it. And I think they are absolutely in danger of that. And you just, and like, let's be honest, you can't watch all 16 games at once on 16 different TVs, but you watch enough of Baltimore.
Well, not with that attitude, you can't.
Right. Why am I limiting what we can do here on Locked On MLB Game Night? Come on, Riepma, get it together. But you watch this team. There's no life. There's no camaraderie and excitement for the game. And it just feels like something drastic needs to happen sooner rather than later. And I don't know what it is, but something to wake up that clubhouse and say, like, this is getting away from us. And okay, 4-6. Yeah, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but let's be a little proactive here if you're the Baltimore Orioles, because it was a lifeless performance today.
There you go. Final few games. We have about a minute or so left. Which of these games do you think ends up being more, tells us more about this team and how good they really are? Nationals over the Diamondbacks 5-4. Mets beat the Blue Jays 2-1 to take the sweep in the series, if I have that right. Astros over the Twins 9-7 in 9 innings. Or Angels take down the Guardians 6-2. Which of those is we're going to look back at the end of the year and say, hey, that team was a lot better than we gave them credit for?
Yeah, I think the Astros one is interesting with their 9-7 win, because when they have struggled out of the gates, it's because they can't score any runs. And you look at that lineup and who's going to produce some offense for the Houston Astros, and the rotation's decent enough. And certainly they don't own the West like they used to, but to see 9 runs up there, albeit an extra innings game, but that jumps out to me. Interesting note on that Nationals Diamondbacks one. They had not won a home series against Arizona since 2017, which is insane.
That's
to
wild.
even say out loud. I saw that in the notes, and I did one of those double takes. But so I mean, it's how many times have I said this tonight? It's early, but at the same time, the Astros scoring 9 runs to me, it jumps out a little bit, and it'll be interesting to see if the Nationals can kind of put something together here and start stockpiling some wins early.
Big one for me, I think, was the Mets 2-1, simply because we thought the Mets offense was going to be fantastic. Adding Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso came back. 7 hits, only 2 runs. They go 1 for 5 runs in scoring position. But the pitching staff allows 4 total hits to Toronto over 9 innings. 5 walks. All of those came from David Peterson. The pen walks nobody in 4 1/3. Maybe the Mets are better than we thought they were. They went to the NLCS last year. It felt like they overachieved. Maybe they're not as bad as we thought. Folks, this has been MLB Game Night for Sunday, April 6th. Do us a favor. You're listening on the audio feed. Subscribe to Locked On MLB. Leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when the next episode of Game Night comes out tomorrow night. Until next time, this has been MLB Game Night.